Hello, my name is Paul Stevers, and I'm going to introduce you to some new business opportunities that can help mitigate carbon emissions on a large scale. These opportunities have emerged due to advances in technologies, growth of facilities for carbon storage, increased availability of climate finance. In addition, I will highlight some agricultural solutions that can capture carbon on a large scale, as well as some security issues that help illustrate the need for large-scale action. For the purpose of this presentation, carbon emissions reduction and removal from the outside air are both considered to be carbon mitigation measures. These business opportunities can be scaled globally. Carbon can be captured from both industrial sources such as power generation and directly from the outside air. Capturing carbon is complementary to and can be integrated with carbon-free energy generation. Once CO2 is captured, it can be utilized for a range of uses including vertical farming as well as being sequestered in the ground. Fortunately, there has been rapid progress in several complementary areas including carbon capture by a range of technology communities, such as the key ones shown next. Here are 4 technology communities that have and are continuing to make considerable progress, but are largely operating independently of each other. This includes the direct air capture or DAC community, the carbon capture, utilization, and storage, or CCUS community, the energy storage community, and finally, the renewable energy community. In addition, there are several industrial clusters around the world that have or are developing carbon capture and storage capabilities. As a result, progress can now be further accelerated by companies taking the initiative to develop projects in collaboration with relevant technology communities and accessing available financing. This would result in a faster rate of development and scale-up of technologies to reduce carbon emissions. Shown next are some example technologies that have been developed and implemented by companies in these communities. The direct air capture, or DAC community, is growing quickly. Shown here are 4 DAC companies and their respective technologies. The first is Carbon Engineering's direct air capture solution, which captures carbon dioxide through a series of chemical reactions and returns the rest of the air to the environment. Then there is Climeworks' DAC technology, which has recently commissioned the world's largest DAC system in Iceland. Next is Global Thermostat's DAC Plus solution that can capture CO2 from both the outside air and a natural gas power plant. Lastly is TerraFixing's carbon capture solution, which has developed a process that works most efficiently in cold and dry climates. This is the first example configuration. It is a combined power system that includes both natural gas power plant and renewable energy farms. The natural gas power plant runs the Allen cycle, which enables 100% carbon capture while it delivers power to the power management system. This power management system is also supplied with electricity from wind and solar farms. To help manage the power more effectively, this power management system includes energy storage to manage short-term power or peaks or shortfalls. If a substantial amount of power is reduced for a longer period of time, such as if there is no wind for a few days, the power management system reduces the power to the direct air capture system of carbon dioxide. In this way, the power management system can maximize reliability of the power to the electric grid. The carbon dioxide that is captured from the power plant or direct air capture system can be utilized in beneficial ways such as accelerating growth of food in a vertical farm or be sequestered in the ground. This is the second example configuration. It includes a standard natural gas power plant and Global Thermostat's new innovative direct air capture plus system that can cost effectively capture CO2 from both the outside air and a natural gas power plant. All the remaining components in this schematic work in the same way as indicated in the previous slide. One of the substantial benefits of this combination of technologies is that it can be implemented with an existing natural gas power plant. This can increase the utilization of this existing power plant and turn it into a negative emissions facility. There are several funding sources available to accelerate technology development and scale up. This includes venture capital, government grants and related incentives, private grant funding, crowdfunding, and loans. To help companies obtain capital to build a facility, online platforms like Pure Earth help facilitate long-term contracts for carbon that is expected to be captured and stored by this facility. As well, to make investments in substantial projects more attractive to investors, these projects can be refinanced with green bonds after they are operational and generating income. The cost of DAC is quite high at this time, but is declining quickly. For example, the cost of capturing and sequestering a metric ton of CO2 in the new plant by Climeworks in Iceland was reported to be in the range of $600 to $800. Some DAC companies are indicating to me that they expect to be able to capture CO2 for less than $100 per ton when their respective technology is being implemented on a commercial scale. Since there are now many companies in the DAC community developing and implementing technologies, organizations seeking to implement projects that will include DAC should explore all their options and select the best ones. To reduce the financial risk of their project and gain more understanding of their best options for DAC, it may make sense to include more than one DAC technology in an initial project. For your convenience, at the end of this presentation, I will provide a link to a web page that will include links to several companies that are developing DAC technologies. Research has shown that carbon can be captured on a large scale if farmers change their farming practices so that they increase organic matter in their soil rather than helping bacteria digest it and release it into the air. To learn more about how this can be done, see this recent report by the Rodale Institute called Regenerative Agriculture and the Soil Carbon Solution. On the next slide, I will outline an additional method farmers can implement to capture and store carbon, which is creating and utilizing biochar. Shown here is an image how farmers can convert agricultural waste into biochar and then incorporate it into their soil. This is a way to fix carbon in the ground for many years. The big news is that farmers can get paid to do this now through online platforms like PureEarth, which is now owned by NASDAQ. PureEarth is a B2B marketplace focused solely on carbon removals. These online platforms enable companies that have committed to net zero to pay farmers to capture carbon. Since there is a rapid growth of major companies committing to net zero, there will be a huge demand for carbon capture and storage services. For example, 21% of the 2,000 world's largest public companies, representing sales of nearly $14 trillion, now net zero commitments by 2050. As well, there's 200 plus large companies, including Amazon, have committed to net zero by 2040. To illustrate why the world needs the help of the oil and gas industry to transition to a low carbon economy, here are two graphs that show how CO2 levels are rising at an increasing rate. The graph on the right is showing the levels rising since 1958, and the other is showing the rise over the last 5 years. When the media reports on the impacts of climate change, they are often referring to forest fires, flooding, and/or violent storms. From my experience in Afghanistan and Africa, I feel that these impacts are relatively minor compared to the impacts on human security such as famine, conflict, large-scale war, collapse of governments, and forced migration. For example, the Institute of Economics and Peace estimated that the climate crisis could displace 1.2 billion people by 2050. Therefore, very large-scale action on climate change is needed, but this has not been happening. For example, this chart illustrates Canada's track record on its commitments versus its results. Each red line connects a date of a commitment to the target of the same commitment. You can see that the change in Canada's emissions has not come even close to meeting these commitments. After reviewing this chart, you may agree that substantial results can only be accomplished with the active participation of Canada's oil and gas industry. In conclusion, many new business opportunities have emerged due to several simultaneous developments. First, the rapid advances in technology in DAC, CCUS, energy storage, and renewables. Next is the declining cost of these technologies. Third is a number of new locations to cost-effectively store CO2. And finally, a substantial increase in the availability of funding. As well, due to the scale of the action needed on climate change, the world needs the oil and gas industry to help implement this action. If the oil and gas industry does take this action, it can generate substantial profits doing so. If you see value in these opportunities and would like to move them forward, I recommend the following next steps. First, investigate these new opportunities further and explore how you and your company can benefit from them. Second, engage with environmental NGOs to address their concerns about CCUS and explain why CCUS is needed to enable adequate large-scale action. To help outline the urgency and scale needed for adequate large-scale action to the environmental community and the doubters in the oil and gas community, highlight the expected impacts of climate change on human security. Finally, I recommend you collaborate with DAC, CCUS, energy storage, and renewable energy communities to implement many new projects and generate substantial profits. Thank you for taking the time to view this video. If you're interested in more information, including links to the related websites of the organizations mentioned in this video, please visit climatesan.org/CEM2.